On June 11, 2025, Omaha Mayor John Ewing Jr. convened a press conference to address U.S. immigration and customs enforcement raids at Glen Valley Foods, which detained approximately 80 individuals, spotlighting a sprawling network of city officials, nonprofit organizations, consular offices, and government agencies dedicated to supporting undocumented immigrants, often pejoratively labeled illegal aliens. This article critically examines the funding, interconnections, and apparent collusion within this network, arguing that it systematically diverts public and private resources from American citizens to non-citizens, potentially exacerbating crime, altering demographic compositions, and skewing electoral outcomes. By analyzing the financial underpinnings and collaborative ties among key actors, city officials, nonprofits, and external entities, this narrative exposes a web of collusion that prioritizes undocumented immigrants over Omaha's legal residents, setting the stage for further investigative scrutiny. The city of Omaha, under Mayor John Ewing Jr., operates a $1.35 billion all-fund budget with a $531.1 million general fund, fueled by property taxes, sales taxes, state allocations, and federal grants. Ewing, earning an estimated $150,000 annually, leverages this budget to oversee municipal operations. Yet his press conference remarks advocating for immigrant services reveal a troubling misallocation of taxpayer funds. His affiliation with Omaha Together One Community, a faith-based group pushing for undocumented immigrant protections through initiatives like the 2024 Immigration and Workforce Summit, signals an ideological alignment that critics argue undermines citizen priorities. Ewing's directives funnel resources to the Human Rights and Relations Department, led by Kaylin Daly DeGillis with a $1.2 million budget and staffed by Jennifer Rodriguez, whose estimated $60,000 to $80,000 salary supports community outreach disproportionately benefiting undocumented immigrants. DeGillis, earning $100,000 to $120,000, collaborates with the Omaha Refugee Task Force and the Nebraska Equal Opportunity Commission, embedding the department in a network advocating for non-citizens, which critics decry as a betrayal of taxpayer trust. Omaha Police Chief Todd Schmaderer, managing a $178.4 million budget and earning $200,000, cooperates with ICE raids through minimal traffic management, a stance this article supports. However, his department's adoption of sanctuary city-like protocols, despite Omaha's non-sanctuary status, restricts deeper IC collaboration, potentially shielding undocumented immigrants and compromising public safety. Schmaderer's policies, scrutinized by the ACLU of Nebraska, indirectly intersect with nonprofits like the Center for Immigrant and Refugee Advancement, CIRA, and Heartland Worker Center, HWC, which exploit these protocols to protect their undocumented clients. City Council member Danny Begley, with a $45,000 salary, and Douglas County Commissioner Roger Garcia, earning $92,000, further entrench this network. Begley's ties to HWC and OTOC and Garcia's involvement with the Nebraska Commission on Latino Americans, which advocates for DACA recipients and undocumented Latinos, align them with organizations diverting public funds to non-citizens, a move critics argue neglects infrastructure and juvenile justice needs within their respective $531.1 million and $612.7 million budgets. The nonprofit sector forms the backbone of this network, with CIRA, led by Eric Omar, $100,000 salary, operating 10 offices across Nebraska and Iowa on a $5 million budget from federal grants, the Omaha Community Foundation and Sherwood Foundation. CIRA's Nebraska Immigration Legal Assistance Hotline, NILA, with a $500,000 budget, refers undocumented immigrants to legal aid, collaborating with Nebraska Immigration Services, NIS, Catholic Charities, and Justice for Our Neighbors, JFON. HWC, under Lena Traslavina Stover, $90,000, with a $1.5 million budget, empowers undocumented immigrants through civic engagement, partnering with Nebraska Appleseed and the ACLU of Nebraska, funded by progressive foundations like Open Society. NIS, led by Mark Sorensen, $80,000, operates on $1 million, while supplemental organizations like Omaha Center for Refugee and Immigrant Services Incorporated, OCRSI, $2 million, Refugee Empowerment Center, REC, $1.5 million, and One World Community Health Centers, $20 million, rely on federal grants and local foundations, forming a redundant network criticized for siphoning resources from citizens. Consular offices, Mexican, $2 million, El Salvadoran, $1.5 million, and Guatemalan, $1.8 million. Funded by foreign governments, integrate with this network, collaborating with CIRA, HWC, and One World, indirectly burdening U.S. taxpayers through these partners' reliance on public funds. Federal agencies, including the Department of Health and Human Services, $1.5 trillion, and its Office of Refugee Resettlement, $7 billion, channel grants to CIRA, OCRSI, and Lutheran Family Services for $1 million, while the Department of Justice, $43 billion, funds Catholic Charities legal aid. State entities like the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services, $2.2 billion, and Nebraska Refugee Resettlement Program, $10 million, contract with REC and OCRSI, amplifying this collusion. Foundations such as the Omaha Community Foundation, $100 million, and Sherwood Foundation, $200 million, fuel nonprofits, while entities like OTOC, the Nebraska Commission on Latino Americans, and the Omaha Refugee Task Force coordinate advocacy, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of funding and ideology. This network's interconnectivity is evident in shared funding streams and collaborative initiatives. CIRA's partnerships with Catholic Charities, Lutheran Family Services, and consulates, alongside HWC's ties to Nebraska Appleseed and ODOC, create a web where federal, state, and local funds converge to support undocumented immigrants. The Omaha Refugee Task Force, involving DeGilles, Garcia, and multiple nonprofits, exemplifies this collusion, coordinating services that critics argue prioritize non-citizens. The Nebraska Immigrant and Workforce Summit, linking CIRA, HWC, and REC with universities and chambers of commerce, further embeds this network in Omaha's civic fabric, diverting resources from legal residents. Critics contend this collusion, underpinned by over $600 million in public budgets and $50 million in nonprofit funds, reflects a systemic bias toward illegal immigration, potentially fostering crime and electoral manipulation, necessitating urgent scrutiny of these financial and ideological entanglements. In conclusion, the June 11th, 2025 press conference unveiled a collusive network of Omaha officials, nonprofits, and government entities channeling vast resources to undocumented immigrants at the expense of citizens. The intricate web of funding, from federal grants to local taxes, and collaborations among Ewing, Garcia, CIRA, HWC, and consulates reveals a deliberate misallocation, criticized for undermining public safety and civic integrity. This article sets the stage for deeper investigations into how such collusion reshapes Omaha's priorities, demanding accountability to restore equitable resource distribution. Police Chief Todd Schmaderer, managing a $178.4 million budget and earning $200,000 annually, cooperated minimally with immigration and customs enforcement during the raid by providing traffic management. However, his department's adoption of policies that limit cooperation with federal immigration authorities, despite Omaha's official stance against being a sanctuary city, raises concerns of obstructing justice, which carries a penalty of up to 5 years. These policies may also violate federal law requiring information sharing with immigration authorities, risking the loss of federal grants. By avoiding immigration status checks, Schmaderer's department indirectly enables nonprofit clients, such as those served by the Center for Immigrant and Refugee Advancement, to evade detection, potentially compromising public safety. Critics contend this selective cooperation undermines federal law enforcement efforts, prioritizing local political agendas over national security. Douglas County Commissioner Roger Garcia, overseeing a $612.7 million county budget with $30 million allocated for juvenile justice, earns $92,000 annually. His advocacy for undocumented immigrant families during the press conference, coupled with his involvement with the Nebraska Commission on Latino Americans, which supports deferred action for childhood arrivals recipients and undocumented Latinos, suggests possible harboring, a crime punishable by up to 7 years. His promotion of nonprofit services and alignment with advocacy groups indicate a potential conspiracy to obstruct federal immigration efforts, carrying a 5-year penalty. Misallocating county funds to organizations aiding undocumented immigrants could also violate federal law, with a 7-year sentence. Critics argue Garcia's actions divert county resources from tax-paying residents, neglecting critical services like infrastructure maintenance. City Council member Danny Begley, earning $45,000 and engaging with the city's $531.1 million general fund, promoted resources for undocumented immigrants, aligning with the Heartland Worker Center and attending Omaha Together One community events. These affiliations suggest he may be facilitating efforts to shield illegals, facing up to 7 years and possibly conspiring to obstruct federal enforcement with a 5-year penalty. Critics contend Begley's focus diverts city funds from neighborhood improvements, prioritizing non-citizens over legal residents. Kaylin Daly DeGilles, director of the Human Rights and Relations Department, manages a $1.2 million budget and earns $100,000 to $120,000. Her oversight of programs supporting undocumented immigrants, including collaborations with the Omaha Refugee Task Force and Nebraska Equal Opportunity Commission, indicates probable harboring with a 7-year penalty. Misusing federal funds through city contracts and conspiring with advocacy groups could result in 7 and 5 years imprisonment, respectively. Jennifer Rodriguez, the department's community relations outreach coordinator, earning $60,000 to $80,000, coordinates outreach for undocumented communities, potentially harboring illegals and misallocating funds, each carrying up to 7 years. Critics argue their actions channel public funds to non-citizens, sidelining Omaha's legal residents. The nonprofit sector forms the core of this alleged criminal network, with organizations like the Center for Immigrant and Refugee Advancement, Nebraska Immigration Legal Assistance Hotline, Heartland Worker Center, Nebraska Immigration Services, Omaha Center for Refugee and Immigrant Services Incorporated, Refugee Empowerment Center, Catholic Charities, Lutheran Family Services, and One World Community Health Centers. Despite distinct names, these groups share funding and objectives, often colluding to support undocumented immigrants under the guise of charity. The Center for Immigrant and Refugee Advancement, led by Eric Omar with a $100,000 salary, operates 10 offices across Nebraska and Iowa with a $5 million budget from federal grants. Omaha Community Foundation, Sherwood Foundation, and donations. Its legal aid and bond assistance through the Prairielands Freedom Fund likely constitute harboring, punishable by up to 7 years per person. Diverting federal grants to undocumented immigrants beyond refugee mandates suggests misallocation, carrying a 7-year penalty. Transferring funds for these activities across state lines could be wire fraud with a 20-year sentence, while misreporting grant usage to the Internal Revenue Service may involve tax fraud, incurring 7 years and $250,000 fines. Coordinating with other nonprofits to obstruct immigration and customs enforcement indicates conspiracy, punishable by 5 years. The Center's extensive collaborations with Catholic Charities, Lutheran Family Services, Nebraska Appleseed, American Civil Liberties Union of Nebraska, Nebraska Commission on Latino Americans, Justice for Our Neighbors, Legal Aid of Nebraska, and consulates from Mexico, El Salvador, and Guatemala amplify its role in this network, draining public resources and enabling illegal employment. The Nebraska Immigration Legal Assistance Hotline, managed by the Center for Immigrant and Refugee Advancement with a $500,000 budget, refers undocumented immigrants to legal aid, likely facilitating harboring and conspiring with nonprofits, carrying penalties of 7 and 5 years, respectively. Its ties to the Nebraska State Bar Association, Women's Center for Advancement, and Centro Hispano Comunitario reinforce this collusion. Misusing funds meant for citizens. Heartland Worker Center, led by Lena Traslavina Stover with a $90,000 salary, operates across 6 Nebraska cities with a $1.5 million budget from Omaha Community Foundation, Sherwood Foundation, Open Society Foundations, and donations. Its civic engagement programs, potentially influencing voting by undocumented immigrants, suggest harboring wire fraud, tax fraud, and conspiracy, with penalties ranging from 5 to 20 years. Collaborations with Nebraska Appleseed, American Civil Liberties Union of Nebraska, Centro Hispano Comunitario, Omaha Together One Community, Nebraska State Education Association, and Mexican and El Salvador consulates push electoral agendas, diverting resources from citizens. Nebraska Immigration Services, led by Mark Sorensen with an $80,000 salary, operates with a $1 million budget from United Way of the Midlands and donations. Its legal aid for undocumented immigrants likely involves harboring and conspiracy, carrying 7 and 5-year penalties. Ties to the Center for Immigrant and Refugee Advancement, Catholic Charities, International Council for Refugees and Immigrants, Justice for Our Neighbors, and consulates reinforce this network, creating redundant funding streams. Omaha Center for Refugee and Immigrant Services Incorporated, with a $2 million budget and an unnamed director earning $80,000, provides legal aid and English classes, likely harboring illegals and misallocating federal grants, each punishable by 7 years. Its collusion with the Center for Immigrant and Refugee Advancement, Lutheran Family Services, East African Development Association, Nebraska Refugee Resettlement Program, Karen Society of Nebraska, El Salvador Consulate, Restoring Dignity, and Omaha Refugee Task Force competes with citizen programs. Refugee Empowerment Center, led by Marilyn Sims with an $85,000 salary, resettles undocumented immigrants with a $1.5 million budget from federal grants and Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. Its harboring, misallocation, and conspiracy activities carry penalties of 7 and 5 years. Collaborations with the Center for Immigrant and Refugee Advancement, Nebraska Immigration Services, One World, Lutheran Family Services, Omaha Refugee Task Force, Creighton University, University of Nebraska Omaha, Nebraska Chamber of Commerce, Guatemalan Consulate, and Nebraska Immigrant and Workforce Summit support demographic shifts. Catholic Charities of Omaha's Immigration Legal Services, with a $3 million budget and a director earning $90,000, defends undocumented immigrants, likely harboring them and misallocating Department of Justice grants, each carrying 7 years. Its ties to the Center for Immigrant and Refugee Advancement, Nebraska Immigration Legal Assistance Hotline, Nebraska Appleseed, Nebraska Commission on Latino Americans, Omaha Together One Community, American Civil Liberties Union of Nebraska, Nebraska Catholic Conference, Nebraska Immigration Services, and Restoring Dignity prioritize non-citizens. Lutheran Family Services International Center of the Heartland, led by Nizar Rasho with a $100,000 salary, operates with a $4 million budget from federal grants and United Way of the Midlands. Its services for undocumented immigrants suggest harboring, misallocation, and conspiracy, with penalties of 7 and 5 years. Collaborations with Refugee Empowerment Center, Omaha Center for Refugee and Immigrant Services Incorporated, Center for Immigrant and Refugee Advancement, Nebraska State Dairy Association, University of Nebraska Omaha, Nebraska Cattlemen, Rural Community Inclusion Partnership, Justice for Our Neighbors, Guatemalan Consulate, and East African Development Association burden local budgets. One World Community Health Centers, led by Andrea Skokin with a $150,000 salary, provides health care for undocumented immigrants with a $20 million budget from federal grants, patient fees, and Sherwood Foundation. Its harboring, misallocation, and wire fraud activities carry penalties of 7 to 20 years. ties to the Center for Immigrant and Refugee Advancement, consulates, Refugee Empowerment Center, Latino Economic Development Council, Omaha Together One Community, Nebraska Commission on Latino Americans, La Plaza de la Raza, and Omaha Community Foundation Strain Public Systems. Consular offices from Mexico, El Salvador, and Guatemala, with budgets of $2 million, $1.5 million, and $1.8 million respectively, issue identification documents that may enable illegal employment, potentially aiding violations of federal immigration law, with penalties up to 6 months. Their unregistered advocacy, influencing local policies with foreign funds, could violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act, incurring fines and up to 5 years. Collaborations with the Center for Immigrant and Refugee Advancement, Heartland Worker Center, One World, and other nonprofits burden U.S. taxpayers supporting non-citizens. Federal agencies, including the Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Refugee Resettlement, Department of Justice, Health Resources and Services Administration, and Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration, channel billions to nonprofits suspected of misallocating funds to undocumented immigrants, a crime carrying 7 years. State agencies like the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services and Nebraska Refugee Resettlement Program contract with nonprofits, potentially misusing state funds. Foundations such as Omaha Community Foundation, Sherwood Foundation, Open Society Foundations, and United Way of the Midlands fund nonprofits, possibly engaging in wire fraud and tax fraud, with penalties up to 20 and 7 years. Advocacy groups like the American Civil Liberties Union of Nebraska, Justice for Our Neighbors, and Nebraska Appleseed conspire to shield illegals, facing up to 5 years. The Omaha Police Department and Douglas County Sheriff's Office, despite claiming cooperation with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, limit immigration status checks, potentially obstructing justice and violating federal law, risking grant losses. Federal immigration courts in Omaha face backlogs, delaying deportations and violating mandates for expedited trials within 90 days, colluding with local agendas to prolong illegal presence. Funding misallocations are central to this network's alleged criminality. The City of Omaha and Douglas County allocate funds to nonprofits suspected of diverting federal grants to illegals. The Human Rights and Relations Department's budget funds illegal outreach, potentially constituting theft. Foundations and consulates channel millions to nonprofits suspected of wire fraud and money laundering. Nonprofits' untracked general fund allocations risk tax fraud, obscuring criminal intent under charitable guises. Despite widespread anti-immigration sentiment among Nebraskans, no organized opposition counters this network's $600 million public and $50 million nonprofit budgets, reflecting citizen apathy or unawareness. The network's efficiency transforms Omaha's demographics, with illegals potentially influencing voting through advocacy or fraud. This coordinated shift, supported by global consulates and foundations, is seen as an invasion, colluding to remake America. The press conference's exposure demands investigation into these criminal enterprises to restore justice for Nebraskans. Supplemental sections available only at the Nebraska Journal Herald, including budget analyses, federal criminal statutes, judicial responsibilities, and a flow chart of collusion, provide detailed insights into this complex issue, available for further examination of this network's impact on Omaha and Nebraska.